I would imagine that recruiting players to a program that doesn't yet exist is very, very difficult. What is it that you're telling these players to entice them to come to Georgia State?
Wait till you see Atlanta GA. And they loved it, and so did their parents. One shocking thing to me was that many of them fell in love with our campus. I thought that would be a complaint. I thought they would say, well, you don't really have a campus, it's not like so-and-so. But people realize we have a contained unit here. We have a lot of students that are here as full-time students who live in the area. That's something new, and our reputation as a commuter school, and of course it is a commuter school. My wife was a commuter student. Her father was a commuter student here. That's where she got her bent toward being a scholar, watching her dad go to night school right down here at Georgia State. It wasn't called Georgia State at that time, but it was this, actually I think it was this building that we're in. I'm pretty sure it was. So all of that I thought would probably be a negative. It's not. That was a real serendipity for me to have the parents and the student athletes say, wow, we really enjoyed the campus and we really enjoyed the kids. And there are a lot of high school students that come here and stay in the dorms now, and we want to come here too. So recruiting here was not as difficult as we thought it was going to be, and I think we probably surprised ourselves a little bit. And I think had we thought about it, if we had really believed that we were going to recruit very well, we would have recruited even better than we did. And I'm going to expect that of our staff next year.
Bubba Smith, who many of our viewers will know better as Hightower from the Police Academy movies, was a former teammate of yours. He introduced you, albeit reluctantly, to a whole new world of workouts, you know, really incorporating hardcore stretching to get the most out of your body. Do his workouts show up in your team workouts?
Yes,
Still?
they do. We stretch. Bubba and I hit it off from the first day. He was a highly touted rookie. He was the #1 draft choice in the NFL that year. I had just been traded over, and I was sort of a down-the-line guy trying to make the Baltimore Colts. And so we sort of hooked up. We had fun teasing with each other, and he started chiding me about being stiff. He said, "You're stiff like the rest of those white guys." And I said, well, I happen to hate stretching, and so I didn't stretch very well. And I said, "What do you mean like the rest of them? Are you being racist or something?" He said, "No, you guys could be flexible, but you don't bother to stretch. If you stretch with me, you could be really flexible." And so we went back and forth for a couple of weeks like that, and he finally shamed me into it because he hit me with a race card. He said, "You just don't want to confess that a black person might be able to teach you something." I said, "Oh, baloney, you know better than that." But so he had me, so I had to do it. So we started doing it. Well, he was 6'8", and I'm only 6'2½". So when we sat down and did partner stretch with our legs spread, and he pulled me forward, I mean, it was excruciating. I said, "How long is this terrible pain going to last?" He said, "Just a couple of weeks." Well, in time, I became more flexible than I had ever been in my life, and I began to be a better player than I had ever been. And I realized this is a huge factor in being able to, in my case, I had to block. In his case, he had to get off blockers and tackle. But being able to bend your knees and get under people's shoulder pads, being more flexible, has a huge impact on whether you're a good player as a lineman. I just didn't get it until he taught me that. So he taught me a lot of things. He taught me some things I can't even repeat.
You've written at length about the coaching staff that you had at the Baltimore Colts, how it had that great combination of wit, humour, stern demeanour, tactical genius, as well as teaching in a way that made sense for the players. Is this something you've tried to recreate here in the hiring of your assistant coaches?
Yeah. I think it's important to have personality. It's important, of course, to know your sport and know your position and know your job. But just knowledge, especially with today's young people, and in the late 60s, we were sort of the first generation of young people that began to question authority. In fact, we didn't begin to question authority. We had kids taking over administration buildings. And I mean, so we questioned everything. Well, that included the coaches. And people like Lombardi and Shula were the ones that were able to adjust somewhat without giving up their authority. And I think being able to relate to a variety of personalities, to understand different cultures, really got started big time. That was another one of Lombardi's great gifts. He was anti-racist, and he had a lot more African-American players on his team than the other NFL teams, which is one of the reasons his teams won so much. So I think it is important to have a variety of personalities and a way to relate to the young people in something other than just authority versus you're going to pay attention and do what I tell you.
Realistically, it can take years, maybe decades, to build a winning program. What are your expectations here?
Well, you're right. It can take a long time. And I have to confess the way my expectations work. I've been in situations where we could have been predicted to get beat every single week, and we did. I was at Georgia Tech at a time. We were going in the ACC. Georgia Tech was way, way down. There were meetings being held to discuss the dissolution of an athletic department, and we were going into the ACC. Clemson was national champs. We were playing the Georgia Bulldogs. They had been the national champs the year before. We were 2-19-1 over a 2-year span. Our out-of-conference schedule was Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Notre Dame. That was our out-of-conference schedule. We were getting hammered every week. But every single week, I convinced myself and worked at convincing my players that we should be expected to win. Every week, we created a plan, if properly executed, would give us a victory in the game, until finally, in the 4th, 5th, 6th years, the victories began to come against some of those very schools that I just mentioned that were beating us to death. So we're going to expect to win the first game, and the second, and the third, and the 8th, and the 23rd, and the 94th, and every time we go on the field, we're going to expect to win.
What are your thoughts about having the Georgia Dome as your home field?
I love it. The guys love it, and the parents love it. We didn't know how that would feel, but there are players who probably signed with us because they're going to get to play in the Georgia Dome. That is not a good reason to select a college, but it sure didn't hurt us. It really helped us in the recruiting. I think they're really excited about it.
One last question. The one thing everyone wants to know. First season, how many wins are you going to get?
Do you expect me to answer that? My answer, if I'm true to what I just said to you in the previous question, if I expect to win every single game, then we'll start the season and our goal will be to win all of them. Now, here's where another bit of Vince Lombardi's genius comes into play. And I really didn't get this until recently. Bart Starr taught it to me. When Lombardi showed up with the Green Bay Packers, they had won like one game the previous 2 years. They were the worst team in pro football. He said, we are going to pursue perfection. Will we ever reach it? Of course not, because we're human. But in the pursuit of perfection, we will capture excellence. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to pursue perfection. Will we reach it? Of course not. But we will capture excellence at some point.
Coach Curry, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Please be sure to check out www.georgiastatesports.com to keep up with the latest developments as we move forward to the first season in 2010. My name is Will Edmonds, and you've been watching Panther Sports.